Akana. Tera Beverly Amos Inuvialuit tara Siliuyaq. Amamang maamama atia. At Qaikaffi Inuvialuktun uqaqtuni ila ingilran ilanginnik atchiqpagait nutagait aniomi tuktuyaqtumi asin ilakkalu tiguvika David and Agnes Nasogaluak North Star mika Ikaahuk Ikaahuk Sax Harbor Ikaahuk 1960 malrungnik ukiunik kama taimanasin inuoktoami tamani ikaayami ilakkalu Qangma asin taimangani nutuangni wigalu inuvingmun ilisariaqlunga savakaqlunga asin inuvialungni uqauchiptingnik Qangma asin nutriktuanni savangairama Imaryungmun wigalu Quyanaq nutuangni awiyaq. So my name is Beverly Amos. My Inuvialuit name is Siliuyaq. And my adoptive parents are David and Agnes Nasogaluak. And I was born in Tuktuyaqtok. And when I was about 2 years old, my dad and I moved with my mom to her home in Sax Harbor, Ikaahuk. We went across by the schooner North Star, my grandfather Fred Carpenter's schooner. And I grew up there. And then when I decided to go to school, for college, we moved to Inuvik 1990. And then I worked, after I finished school, I worked for the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation at the Cultural Center. And I have just recently retired. And my husband and I moved to our camp. And that's where we are today. Welcome. Welcome to my home. Quyanaq Qaikaffi. my parents, they weren't having children, so they adopted me first from the Quyanaq family, Quyanaq. And then they adopted 2 others after me, my brother Darren and my sister Iona. And then they had one child of their own, David Jr. And today just my brother Darren and I are left in the family. But my husband and I have 4 children and 12 grandchildren and a great-grandson. So that makes us happy. Inuvialuktun, Inuvialuktun, and Sumiklo. This is a lagoon right in front of our cabin, where the ducks and geese, swans, all kinds of waterfowl, they come and swim around in here and sleep here. And we have there's some muskrat. There's a family of muskrats here too in this area. So it's a pretty busy place if you pay attention. There's lots of wildlife and a lot of things happening. Little schools of fish in the water. Lots of different birds nesting. So it's really enjoyable staying out here. You can see in the distance we're close to some trees. Where the seagulls lay eggs and some geese. So we get to have a few fresh eggs in the springtime. And Inuvialuktun, this area, this place, this lake is called Imaryuk. Very ancient place for Inuvialuit. Used to come here a lot long ago. Do their fishing. And further up, they hunt caribou for their winter clothing. People are still doing that today.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so much on the clothing part, but getting caribou for food. Lots of, just about every place you go to, there's names, Inuvialuktun names. It's a very sacred place. It's so big in some places, it's like you're driving on the ocean. Big, wide open water, salt water.
I could smell it.
Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to take a swim in the salt water, eh?
Yeah, on a hot day.
Yeah. We're landing, Bambi. Right behind you.
Oh.
There's some loons too that fly over to a pond or something there.
Mm-hmm.
Every spring, summer, right to fall, they fly back and forth feeding their nest, young ones.
Are those loons over there?
Yeah, you hear them? Oh, those ones are. You got numbers. You could hear them up.
Yeah. Can't see them in the picture.
Fishing holes just out here. We fish for trout, big fish, so we don't have to go very far from our home to enjoy the lake.
Seagulls and geese lay eggs over there.
Yeah. Oh, oh. Hey. Here's what my mom taught me how to do is to work on hides. She taught me a little bit about working on Qaikaffi, it's wolverine. When you get the animal, you skin it out, and then you could wash it, or you can rub it in the snow to clean the hide before you dry it, and then you flense the fat off. You flush it with ulu, and after you've done that, then you stretch it out. You could stretch it out with what we use now is big staples, and you could use nails on the wood, or you could stretch it out using weights to keep it from going in too much. However you can stretch it as long as the whole thing dries. And if you're gonna wash the hide, like in a washer, you have to let it drip dry a little bit and dry the fur before you put it against something to stretch it out to dry the skin side. You got to make sure the hide, the fur part is somewhat dry, and then you stretch it overnight, and maybe day and a half, depends on the edges. You make sure the edges are dry and they're visible, so that it doesn't leave some spots that could get spoiled. Make sure you dry the whole thing, and then after it's all dry, then you put a paste, or some people use just dish soap mixed with water, diluted, or you make a flour paste. Everybody has their own. You put it onto the whole hide, and then you fold it right in half, legs to legs, and then you fold the legs up, roll the legs up, and then you roll the body, make a sort of like right in half, and put it in a plastic bag or something in a cool place and let it sit overnight. And you check it next day, see if it's ready, and you use a scraper, or ikun. Start taking the paste and the top layer of the hide of the wolverine off. And you just keep you look too while you're working at it like this, to soften it and break up the membranes on the hide. Go like this, and to soften. Then you just keep scraping, and you don't towards the end you don't have to like really scrape hard. You're just stretching and softening. And you could add softener to it. You could add more water if need be, if it's the the legs are really dry, or if they get dry while you're working on the body, you could add more of your solution, or you can add water or lotion of your choice.
So, if someone was going to scrape a hide, what's the correct way to say that in Inuvialuktun?
Oh yeah, I've seen people, they said they're going to ikun a hide. The ikun is the name of the tool, ikun, that you scrape with. I should have had mine here with me. But you use a ikun to scrape a hide. But when you're scraping it with the ikun, you're ikuking. You ikuk. Ikuk tunga. You know, Amernik ikuk tunga. Like that. You ikuk it. You don't ikun it. Because you're like, I'm scrapering it. You know, it's the tula.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just a proper term. And this bottom part of the kavik is a siniksak, because your sini is for the bottom, the outer side. It goes on the bottom of your coat. And this part here is the Inuvialuit. It's called Inuvialuit, and it goes on your hood. And this one is for a woman. And it's only this thin. And you could use this kind for inside your amarok when you're making a sunburst with wolf. You could put this. This is actually a little too thick for to put on your sunburst. But if you're you gotta make slits here so that it could fan out and follow your amarok on your parky. But this one is always, my mom taught me that this part is for women, this long hair here. And it's the very end. This is the tail right here. Yeah. And sometimes what they do too is when the tail is here, you cut pieces off the tail on either side, and then you add them right here to make it even more big here. You add them to each side. You add those little pieces like this that you add on like a amarok when you're making your sunburst.
Yeah. Little squares.
Yeah, little squares. People, I see my mom and my ananak too. They add them to the wolverine. And this is the very back. For Inuvialuit, we hardly ever use the arm part. Some people do. In other areas, I see them. They use a cross here for the amal part, but for Inuvialuit, we always use the longer guard hair right at the end. And then the next part to it is the men's trim for a hood, the Inuvialuit. It comes from this part. So men, I don't know if that was the way it always was, but I just follow what my ananak and my mom do. They never use this for men. It's always shorter hair. This next part, more of the back, and it's from the bottom part of the animal. And then there's a woman's part, and then there's the men's part, and then there's that rest as you're going up towards the head. That back part, that's where the siniksak comes from. It's in the strips. You cut those strips.
Oh, for the bottom.
For the bottom, yeah. And the first strip after the men's Inuvialuit is cut out, then the next strip belongs at the very back of the parka, because it's the nicest. And then the next strip goes on one side, or the next strip goes on the front. First strip back, second strip front, and then the next 2 strips go on the sides.
Oh, okay.
Further going up towards the arms of the animal is just like not as good fur. So you put the best where it's noticeable.
Yeah. Like at the back and front.
Yeah.
Um,
And sometimes people use really thick fur, but long ago traditionally they didn't, use like 3 inches on the bottom or something, but this is more like an inch or inch and a half.
so can you make all of that from one wolverine?
Yeah.
So 2 hoods and one...
The 2 hoods from the bottom.
Yeah.
It depends on the size of the wolverine too. It has to be a good size, medium to large like. But if you have really small wolverine, it's more like just for your hood or children. Yeah. And then the neck part too, they use it for sleeves sometimes. I remember having that as a kid, and it was like colorful because of the colors on the neck.
Yeah.
Yellow or white mixed with the black. And that part too was used for like Ikaahuk, those how they call people call them gawaks.
Yeah.
They're Ikaahuk in our language, and they use that fur for the men's Ikaahuk.
Okay.
You know, there's that piece of fur.
Yeah.
You could use this kind too. And the arms was traveling parkies or kids. You could, if it's a good size wolverine too, you could make two hood furs from that. So they used every part of it, and the heads they would collect them and make bags or something. They're real pretty. Those pouch bags, like yeah.
Like shell bags?
Yeah,
or,
they're really thick skin, so they're good for hunting stuff. And I don't know what else to say, but where I grew up on Banks Island, there's no wolverine, but people did trades and buying. Same with moose hide. We don't have moose on Banks Island, so a lot of people used Ikaahuk for bottom of their shoes.
Yeah.
Because they spend a lot of time on ocean too. Moose hide is no good for salt water.
Yeah.
So we grew up using Ikaahuk bottom shoes.
Bearded seal?
Bearded seal, yeah. We grew up using those since we were kids. And they're really good for the salt water doesn't affect them. Not like any other hide, like cowhide, moose hide.
Yeah. And then they buy or trade for moose hide and use moose hide for like fancy shoes?
Yeah. Or when you're trapping on the land, if you're just doing land-based stuff, they use a moose hide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it just depends on what you're doing and what time of year. Because springtime too, we have to use our Ikaahuk bottom shoes for when we're traveling on the ice.
Yeah, waterproof.
Waterproof, yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was growing up in Sac, sometimes we just used thinner parkies in summer because it was cold. My dad used to tell the joke about when we used to see a mosquito in sacks, it was just cute even because there was no mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So when it's cold years, like some summers the ice wouldn't even leave, like melt. Yeah.
Sure has changed now because
Yeah.
there's swarms and
Yeah.
swarms of mosquitoes.
And we'd spend a lot of time on icebergs hunting seal instead of like always going around with your boat. You just gotta pull up to an iceberg, pull your boat up, and my parents used to put up their tent, and when they get seal, they use a little ocean boat, a little kayak. You know, the people call them kayak.
Yeah.
Yeah, the proper name is kayak. And they have those open water boats, and they go out and retrieve their seals. When my dad gets them, he used to go out, and boy, we eat good fresh seal meat. Yeah.
You cook it or eat it raw?
Cook it. Yeah, my mom would cook it out right on a flat iceberg, and lots of those. We had so much ice them days, lots of icebergs, and some of them were tall. So they'd get drinking water from there too, from the parts that have drained, the salt drained down. So we'd have drinking water right from out in the ice. Yeah.
Like melting the ice?
The must be the sun and whatever melts the iceberg, and the salt would go down, like, and then the top parts would have good water, like fresh water.
Like pools of water on the ice, or
Iceberg.
do you have to melt it?
Like iceberg.
Uh-huh.
You have to melt it. Yeah. I think people were able to use the top parts too sometimes from snow.
Oh.
Yeah, if there's snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they scrape the top off. Yeah.
Would you cook the seal on primer stove?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we had. No driftwood up there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, when if my parents never brought me across with a boat to the island, I would never know and experience and live that kind of good life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really different from the mainland.
Yeah. It was harsher climate and stuff, but we didn't know. I didn't know that, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't know of other places to compare my life with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was enjoyable. Lots of polar bears too used to come into town before we had electricity. And I remember when they put up the powerhouse, you know, right about below the school.
Yeah.
Around there they put up a powerhouse, and everyone's saying, boy, that thing is so noisy.
Oh.
You could hear the humming of that powerhouse, and it's like it interfered with our life.
Yeah.
And people got used to it after a while, though. Yeah. So it was like something else to be able to put a switch on the light, and then you have instant light, because we used gas lamps.
Yeah.
When we first moved to Sax, we lived in a frame tent for about 5-6 years, right at the west end of town. We had a tent frame there with stove in it, fuel stove.
Yeah.
then my dad and other people that helped him build a house. It was just like a mansion, so warm and so big. It had one bedroom. But I don't remember I don't think we were ever like freezing cold or hungry.
Yeah.
So we were really fortunate that way. We had so much animals and food, different variety of food on to get from Banks Island then. Yeah. Seal, and we make Ikaahuk dry meat too, bearded seal dry meat,
Yeah.
and render down the fat, the blubber, and make a dip, put the Ikaahuk mipku in it, and add that and make charred dry fish. Add that to the oil, and my ananak Susie Sidney, she used to make dry, even like goose gizzards and goose meat.
Yeah.
And all of us did that. Right to this day, in the community of Sax Harbor, they still make goose dry meat. Yeah, and when it's dry too, you could add it to your oil. Boy, mamak. And gizzards, you could dry the gizzards of the goose.
Yeah.
Add it to the oil. That's what we used to do. My ananak, she taught my mom, and then like we just kept on the tradition. Yeah. And sometimes I used to pick hussocks. I don't know what you call them. We had a silly name for them everybody used, but it's like the top of those little knolls.
Yeah.
And pick the moss for my mom so she could smoke some of the food in her little smokehouse. So I used to pick moss for her.
Okay. To burn because there was no
wood.
No driftwood.
Yeah. So you make smoke with moss. Smoke your food if you want to. But I never really grew up with heavy smoked food. So right to this day, I don't really care for it too much. I like lightly smoked stuff sometimes. Yeah. And yeah, my parents were very generous people. I always feel thankful for them because they adopted us. 3 of us from Tuktoyaktok, gave us all a home. Gave us a good home. And by the time it was time for me to go to school, I didn't go because my dad said no. He didn't want me to go to residential school and be away from them. And at that time too, I don't think that people really knew what was going on. And I'd stay at home while kids my age and younger would go away for the winter. I didn't go, so that's how I kept some of my language, and always hanging around elders and people that my parents were close to. Ruth and Wallace Lucas, and people, family, my granny. So by the time I wanted to go to school, I was 10. So I went for 1 year to Stringer Hall. And my parents said it was so tough without me that year. They really fought for school, my dad and other community members. They fought for school. So the following year, in 69, I think, or something, we got a school in Sax. Up to grade 6.
Yeah.
So when I went when I was 10, I was in grade beginner. And I don't think myself personally, I never missed out on anything. I actually gained by staying home
Yeah.
with my parents. Because schooling, you could practically pick it up anytime, but
Mm-hmm.
important stuff like culture and language, to me, that are important,
Yeah.
I kept some of it. And I never remember being sat down at a table or a desk with pen and paper to learn my language.
Yeah.
It was just natural.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it, but I don't, it was just like the same for me, kind of, for English and Inuvialuktun. I don't know if my parents just always talked to me in Inuvialuktun or mixed with English. I don't know. But I just always knew both.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I knew Inuvialuktun more because few stuff I learned later on that I was mispronouncing in English.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had, we used to use dog team. My dad would bring my mom and I with him on his last trip in April, March, April, when it warms up a bit, bright.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go out with him on his last trip, way up to on northwest side of Banks Island, right up to maybe Big River. I think he used to go right to Storgeson. And next thing I was getting I had a chocolate bar. And I was saying, where's this chocolate came from? And my dad said, oh, that fox left it for you last night in the trap because he knows you're here and he wanted to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so happy. I said, boy, them foxes, they're so good.
Yeah.
They just know everything. I really believe them. But I had a great respect for the white fox. Even sometimes I felt like I needed fresh air sometimes when the foxes are drying right above my bed in the bedroom. Like there's limited space and they have to dry. So I used to tell my mama, tired of smelling foxes. She said, you can't be fussy because this is our livelihood. This is how we survive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we do. So I grew up in a trapping family, trapping community. Everybody was trapping.
Mm-hmm.
All the men go out with
White.
dog teams.
White fox.
White fox, Tunnganarniq. Yeah. Lots of work. Work. No end to it, especially when you have a dad that was a really prosperous trapper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lots of foxes. So he used to get help from other people like widows or people that could help.
Mm-hmm.
He'd hire them. And it wasn't always money. It was like, furs and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And that they used for sewing. And we'd get a barge order in every year. We had like about 3-4 warehouses of different things.
Mm-hmm.
One was for junk, one's for meat, and one's for barge order.
Mm-hmm.
Right from when I can remember, we had a warehouse full of food from a store. Because there was no store in Saks. Everybody had to order their own. We weren't the only ones. Just about everybody ordered. So that's how important a barge was then.
Yeah.
Once a year.
Yeah. And it still is.
Yeah, it still is very important to fill up the store.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was to fill up and to get your 45s of fuel, gas that you need. Here's little trees, a bunch of them together in the edge of the tree line where we live. And where we pick cranberries, they're called gimming nut. Some places they get really big. The season's almost over for cranberry picking right now. But the growth is so beautiful, like all kinds of colors, especially in earlier fall.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just this is the cranberry gimming nut to eat. Make jam or just eat it like that.
So beautiful, eh?
Beautiful edible fruit, very high in vitamins too. Earlier in the summer we get blueberries, okoit, and or okot, and cloudberries. We call them akbeet. One akpik and many akbeet. Very delicious berry that is orangey in color. Very high in vitamins too. Healthy food. So that's what we pick to eat in the winter.
How do you say blueberry? Because there's some blueberries still here. I saw some.
Yeah. Okoit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Asli. So fun. It's like a staggering. The people that, since land claims, they call everybody Inuvialuit.
Yeah.
It's through the land claim settlement and stuff, you have to have a title.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, everyone decided on Inuvialuit. And the Inuvialuit people are actually the people from the coast in the Tuktuiaqtok area.
Mm-hmm.
That place where they call Taktoyaktak.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tuktuiaqtok. And they, right from around Herschel Island, all the way up towards Baulatok. And in between, that's, I guess,
Homeland.
everybody before that used to be called by where they lived.
Yeah.
Like Inuvialuit and Abbaq and Ikaahuk, and they call them mute at the end.
Yeah.
All depends on where you lived. Like Gukpak, they call them Gukpang mute, Inuvialuit, across the river from them. And then the people that lived or that are from there, they call them Inuvialuit mute. You know that place in Tuk that they call Kitty Hall?
Mm-hmm.
It's named after that place, Inuvialuit. They just shortened it to Kitty.
Yeah.
Just like nowadays they shorten everything and say only half of the word.
Yeah.
When they used try to use Inuvialuktun. They really shorten it, and it's not really understandable after a while. So with, sometimes they call us to Sallirmiutun, people that live by the sea, because that is true, we do. Our people come from the coast, and Inuvialuit, it means the real, like the original people of the area. And in the Inuvialuit settlement region, it includes Ulukhaktok. And in that community, there are people that are Inuvialuit do live there, that their parents moved from the coastal Inuvialuit communities. And some of them are Inuvialuit, and they speak Inuvialuktun. And the dialect that they chose, that we work with from when I worked at the cultural center, it was in Inuvialuktun. It's like Inuvialuit is the people of the big bay. It's always referred to where you're living, to where you're from. Before that, people were all over, not all in one place, living in their own camps. And then the other ones that were included were Inupiat, that had ancestors that came from Alaska, because in Alaska they're called Inupiat, and their language is Inupiatun. And like all of the ones, Inuvialuktun, Inuvialuktun, and Inupiatun, it all means the same. It's like the original people. It's all, when you translate it. And within those three, there's dialects, little different dialects. When I used to ask my parents and other people, like, why those people are saying it like this, isn't it this way? Like the words, and they said yes, but even how close people were from one camp to the other, they have little different dialect, just by how they live and what they hunt and everything. There's really lots of dialects, for instance, in Tunnganarniq right now, they call it Inuvialuktun, or the dialect, they say Sallirmiutun. It used to be called Siglit, but the elders back then were telling me and others that that's not even our word, so we don't know who called us that, or somebody named us that along the way. They said that's not really our name. So we, from the cultural center, we checked around, talked to people. I talked to lots of people, language holders and elders, and they all agreed and said that that wasn't their word, and they would have preferred Sallirmiut. So then the dialect for Inuvialuktun became Sallirmiutun, because some other, like Inupiaq and Inupiaq mostly, they take on the term Inuvialuit and Inuvialuktun for their language too. So it was like people were getting confused when they were looking for resource material and stuff to learn their parents' language. Language resources, they were saying, well, this sounds different. It doesn't sound Inuvialuktun. So we had to go by dialect. rather than just saying Inuvialuktun, because it's more diverse. Other people have joined the Inuvialuit group.
Yeah.
So that's how we worked around that. And a lot of times people aren't saying things wrong. They're just speaking their parents' dialect or their grandparents. The only thing that I didn't really care for, but all of us do it, is mixing with English. It's really hard to break away from that now. Like when people say like ulu, they say ulus. But in Inuvialuktun, you don't add S at the end of a word to make it plural or more than one. You don't just slap on a S. That's English. So it's mixing. And we all are, guilty of doing that without thinking. Yeah.
So how
That's
would
the
you
change.
say more than one ulu?
Ulu, uluk, ulut. 3 or more. Ulut, uluit. Not ulus. Yeah. It's more like add a T.
Yeah.
And even me, like with my name, Beverly, and if I was going to say Beverly's, something like Beverly's fur, I would say Beverlim. It would be an M. But if I use my Inuvialuktun name, it sounds better.
Yeah.
Because you're not mixing different language. It would be Siliuyaq instead of Siliuyaqs. Yeah. And all language is good. All language, Inuit language, is all precious. It's just I like to share the differences between the dialects and stuff, because we all love our own that came from our parents and grandparents, because it keeps us connected to them.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are really passionate about how they say the words or pronounce them. And I hope that continues, like that people are so proud of their heritage. That includes your language. And that people should really watch how they pronounce their names, their father's name. Because long ago everybody had just one name, way back when.
Yeah.
You don't get married and change your name to your husband's name. You always just have your own name. You don't belong to someone else in name. That's a white man way, yeah? Yeah. And now some people are getting their names back. Like my husband, he's changed his name back to his Inuvialuktun name. One name. But it's kind of difficult for him sometimes, because when you're filling out stuff, they want 2 names.
Yeah.
So the form won't go through online unless it has 2 names. And the government is saying that they're helping people and it's free. They've made it free, but they still haven't changed their rules. Yeah. So
Their
that
programs and their forms and stuff.
yeah, it's hard to fill out with. They call it incomplete when it just has one name. Yeah. So after he changed his name to his original name, I kind of was wondering, like, what I'm going to do, because I've kind of felt out of place, because I married him, so I had to take his name religiously. You get married in a church, you have to follow what they tell you. So I kind of was wondering who I am for a while, like who to change my name to, or I might still do that too, back to my own name. Yeah. So things like that people are doing, and it takes time to for the government to catch up, I guess.
Yeah.
If enough people complain about it, there'll be changes.
Mm-hmm.
Did we miss anything?
No, I think that's good.
This, I wanted to show this I got from my parents. It's called Mitqutausiqpik. This is a swan bone here.
Mm-hmm.
And you add your hide or something on the inside. And then you have a stopper. And you could put your needles in here like this for when you're storing them or you're traveling.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mitkun. Your needle is your mitkun. And they're safekeeping underneath a bone. And the bone has the design on it. Somebody designed it. I don't even know who made this. I wish I knew. So next time you people are munching on your swan bone, the wings, keep that bone and make a needle case. Mitqutausiqpik. One way to keep our tradition alive.
Yeah, it's beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
It looks nice.
Yeah. And that. I have a little bag of trinkets that I keep. They're my special belongings. This one is from a seal, young seal bone that you use for the Ikaahuk game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that part hooked up right now, but that's what I carry in my little bag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have this ulu here, my favorite ulu. I had it over 40 years, almost 45 years. It used to have a bigger belly here, and made by Moses Raddy,
Oh.
Sallirmiutun
Yeah.
in Sachs Harbor. I got it off him.
So you sharpened it, used it so
I used it so much.
and sharpened it.
And it's right from the end, so I use it for fleshing and eating and cutting up meat, and I flesh polar bear with it, and wolves, muskox, caribou, anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not for a fox though. I use smaller, more dainty little ulu
Mm-hmm.
for foxes. And yeah, of all the ulus I had, this is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I used it quite a bit too,
Mm-hmm.
growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Mati usi mulit tapi diksaming iya